It's a beautiful Monday morning, already buzzing with energy and the high hustling spirit in the city. As everyone was getting all ready to get their day started at work, the elevator opened, and in it was Grace. The office knew a shy, average and decently dressed Grace, but the person in the elevator was totally different. This Grace was dressed like a baddie, looking hot from hair to toe. The wig she wore, the clothes, her heels, and her handbag were top-notch. In addition to this was the confidence she wore, like an original Arabian perfume. This doesn't just get the attention in the room, but it keeps the attention. Grace graciously strolled into the office, taking each step meticulously and flirtatiously, not interested in who was staring because the whole office was staring. Her presence kept everyone looking and too stunned to speak. She walked gently straight to her office and sat down like the classy and sexy baddie she had become overnight. Nene, shocked to see this new Grace, walks into her office and says, Grace, what is this? Is this some kind of intervention?" she asks jokingly. Grace looks through her phone without paying any attention to her for a few seconds. She later raises her head and responds calmly, "I need to work now, Nene. I'll call you when I need to chit-chat." Nene was shocked by that response and didn't even know how to respond to that. She respected herself and left the office. By the end of the day, Grace was all set to close from work, when Nene walked in again and asked, "Have I offended you in any way? You look different, talk different, and it's a whole new attitude. What's going on, Grace? You know you can always talk to me, right?" Nene said. Grace looks at Nene, smiles, and says, "You are right, I have rather been a total bitch today." Holding her hands, she continues, "Take it easy with me, I'm going through a phase, can't talk about it now, but someday I will share. You know what, let me make it up to you, let's get dinner and bills on me." Grace, relieved that she got her friend back, they both jet off to the car and went to their usual restaurant for a good dinner. At dinner, they caught up on so many things. It was a beautiful time, just as it always has been, although Grace was constantly distracted by the messages she got from David. Nene, pretending like she didn't know, asked, "I think you have to finally tell me who keeps you giggling at your phone like a clown." They both laughed. "It's just a boy," Nene responded. "And who is this boy, my friend?" Grace asked, smiling helplessly. "Just a boy," Nene responded. "But I promise to let you in on the full story when it becomes real," Nene said. "Well, if you insist, my friend, as long as you are happy, that works with me." Grace smiled wickedly. After a few minutes, Nene stood up to go to the restroom. As usual, she left her phone on the table as she was pressed. Grace used this opportunity to send all the intimate chats, videos, and pictures that Nene and David had both exchanged to her mobile phone and deleted any trace of her actions. Of course, Nene didn't know that Grace knew about her relationship with David, or that she was even possessed by a spirit from the mirror. After a few days, Nene had a huge presentation to present to the board of directors in the company. This was very important to her as it would determine her future in the company, which was a possible promotion. In attendance were other of her co-workers like Grace, David, and other people. As the presentation started, Nene was doing just great, hitting all the main points, and right in the middle of it the slideshow stopped. And the next thing that popped out was Nene's intimate video, which showed her dancing seductively while stripping her clothes until she was naked. The shock on her face and everyone was huge. Some of her colleagues quickly ran to turn it off. It was chaos that day. The meeting ended abruptly, the room was scattered, everyone was confused, the directors left, Nene's manager was angry, and Nene could see the disappointment on everyone's face as she was still in total shock. But while looking, she quickly caught a glimpse of Grace's face. It was odd because rather than the disappointment expression, she was rather smiling. But Nene could not think about that at that moment, because she was just lost in it all. At the end of the day, Nene lost her job and was thrown out of the office. She shamefully took her things and left. For days, Nene was lost in depression. She didn't know what happened, she couldn't explain it, she was even suicidal at some point. And in all this time Grace never checked up on her. Grace was busy giving her attention to David. At some point she even had a dinner date with David, secretly took pictures of it, and sent the evidence to Nene, who was wallowing in depression. This action broke Nene further. She couldn't believe that David could do this to her, as he also abandoned her during her time of need. After a few weeks, Grace heard a knock at her door. She got up to open, and it was Nene, looking like someone who escaped from an asylum. Nene walked straight in, went to the kitchen to get alcohol, came back to the sitting room to Grace, and sat down. They didn't say anything to each other. Grace graciously sat down on her couch and was looking at her. Nene said while sipping alcohol, "How are you doing, Grace?" "As you can see, I'm doing great," Grace responded, laughing hysterically. "Funny that I can't say that about me," Nene said. Grace didn't respond. "You're not gonna ask me how I've been, my friend? That's what you always call me, huh, my friend?" Grace said. "You didn't call, didn't visit, no text. You know, I almost thought you died, because I wondered why my friend was not here with me, helping me get by each day. Rather, she was flirting with a man that will never be hers," Nene said angrily. "Well, I am not the whore who decided to embarrass herself publicly," Grace responded. Nene stood up and slapped Grace. "You did it, didn't you?" Nene asked. "You put that video in the meeting. I caught you smirking in the midst of that confusion. I couldn't really just get how that happened. But just yesterday it all added up. You knew about me and David set me up. I lost my job and you took him from me. Perfect revenge, right?" Nene said. Grace laughed hysterically. "Don't you just love a sweet revenge, my friend? Was he worth it?" Nene asked. "Honestly, he wasn't worth the hype. I guess that's why he was easy to get," Grace answered. "You know, maybe I did deserve it. I promise I wanted to come clean, but I just didn't know how to tell you that I was in love with the same guy you loved. I thought fast and decided to make the first move. I agree I was selfish, but Grace, you could have just talked to me, not ruin my life because of a worthless man," Nene said. "Did you think about me in all of these? In everything, did you think about how I felt? Let me ask you, would you have ever let me have David if I approached you?" Grace asked. Nene couldn't respond. "I guess the baddest bitch had to win. I won, you lost. Get over it, friend," Grace said, smiling. "I am not your friend, you're a spawn of the devil. You would kill for selfish interest. You are the devil," Nene said. "Ha ha 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 ha. Coming from someone who has her nude displayed in public," Grace responded. Nene shouted, "You did that to me, you witch, you did that." They both started fighting, and Grace had the upper hand. She dragged Nene out of her house and locked the door. Grace went straight to the mirror and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, get out." Instantly the mirror's spirit left her, and Grace suddenly felt a deep remorse. She couldn't believe she did the things she did. She didn't believe she did that to Nene. She sat on the floor and sulked in deep thoughts and confusion. Unbeknownst to her, the mirror was already gaining more of her strength and becoming stronger by the day. The mirror said, "Don't feel bad, she deserved that." Grace responded she didn't. "I am not a bad person. And you aren't," the mirror reassured Grace. "Leave me alone," Grace said and left the bathroom. The following day, while at work, Grace in her real self was still feeling very bad for everything that had happened. While struggling with her conscience, she saw David flirting with another beautiful lady at work. It was at that point it dawned on her that David was just a flirt who would get down with anything in skirt, and this infuriated her. After work, she went to Nene's house, but the neighbor told her that her parents had come to pick her up, as she almost killed herself. Hearing this broke her spirit more. Grace wanted to leave everything behind and find peace with herself. She realized that she let the spirit go too far, but then she felt David needed to be punished in a way. On her way home, she concluded that she would let the spirit into her again to find a way to deal with David, and after that finally get rid of the mirror. Unknown to her, she had no idea that she was already in sync with the mirror, and what she planned in her mind was already known to it. So the mirror was waiting for Grace to invite it into her one more time because it planned never to leave her again.